Hey there, brave explorers of the microscopic world. Welcome to another mind-bending adventure where we dive into the depths of the unseen. Today, we're not only dipping our toes but plunging headfirst into a story of a creature that sounds like it's straight out of a damned horror movie, but it's all too real. I'm talking about Naegleria fowleri, the so-called brain-eating amoeba. Buckle up, because this journey will be educational, a bit screwed up, and definitely full of surprises. So picture this: a sweltering summer day. You're at your favorite lake, the sun's beating down, and all you want is a refreshing splash, but lurking below the surface in these warm, inviting waters, there's a tiny, godforsaken organism with a big impact. Kinda like my wiener, but way more dangerous. Naegleria fowleri, a free-living amoeba, loves hanging out in places just like this. Warm freshwater lakes, rivers, geothermal springs, and even in the less maintained corners of swimming pools where the water's a bit too cozy. Basically, you just want to avoid nasty-looking water and you'll probably be fine away from these things. Now, let's get to know Naegleria a bit better. This amoeba isn't your run-of-the-mill one-celled organism. It's got some serious shape-shifting skills in one form. It's just a blob moving around with pseudopodia, those little finger-like projections, but when it wants to get around faster, it grows flagella, turning into something like a microscopic tadpole. Well, here's where the plot thickens, and not in a good way. Naegleria fowleri has a very specific way of getting into trouble. If water containing this amoeba goes up your nose, your nose, it can make its way all the way up to your brain. This is where the term brain eating comes from, but let's clarify. It's not like it's intentionally out to get you. It's just that when it finds its way into a new environment, which is unfortunately your damn brain, it starts doing what amoebas do best: eating. Unfortunately, again, brain tissue is on the menu for this thing. But once inside, Naegleria starts a process called primary amoebic meningoencephalitis, or PAM. Sounds like a jacked up spell from a wizard's book. But trust me, it's no magic you'd want to experience. Symptoms start off like you've caught the flu, but they soon spiral into severe headaches, fever, nausea, and even seizures or coma. It's a dramatic high-stakes adventure for the human body and not one with a happy ending for the infected. Imagine this. So you're having a blast in the water one day, and then within a few days you're battling some infection that's as rare as it is ferocious. The progression is swift. From feeling a bit off to being in dire need of medical attention. The early stages might seem like a bad headache, but as the amoeba multiplies, the brain's defenses are overwhelmed, leading to neurological chaos. But here's the good news. While the story sounds like a horror tale, you can take steps to avoid it. First off, avoid swimming in freshwater bodies where you might stir up the sediment. If you swim, consider using a nose clip or simply hold your nose. And for those pool owners out there, keep that water chlorinated and clean. Naegleria doesn't like very clean or cold water, so keep your pools on the cooler side, or just don't even swim at all. That's one way to go about it also. If you suspect that you've been exposed and start feeling symptoms, don't wait for the plot to thicken further. Get to a doctor ASAP. While Naegleria infections are rare, they are serious, and early detection can be the key to survival. Treatment involves powerful medications and sometimes even experimental therapies because this amoeba is a tough bastard to beat. Now, let's bust some myths. Naegleria fowleri isn't out to get you from your tap water or even in the sea. It's very specific to freshwater environments, and no, you can't catch it from another person or animal. It's not contagious in that way, but if you're diving into warm lakes, you need to be aware. So basically, screw lakes and still water or fresh water or any of that type of crap. So let's zoom in even further. Naegleria's life cycle is pretty fascinating. It starts out as a cyst, which is like its survival mode when conditions aren't ideal. Once in better conditions like warm, crappy water, it transforms into a trapezoite, which is its active feeding stage. This stage is where all the trouble starts to find its way into a human host. Scientists and researchers are constantly on the hunt for better ways to detect and treat Naegleria infections. There's ongoing research into why this amoeba is so deadly in such specific circumstances and how we can better prepare against it. Every year, we learn more, making our adventures into nature's water a bit safer. Here's a fun fact to lighten the mood though. Naegleria fowleri was first identified in Australia back in the 1960s, and since then it's been a global player in the microscopic world. It's a reminder that even the smallest creatures can have the biggest impact. Now, let's get interactive. Can you guess how many cases of Naegleria infections occur each year? Here's a hint. It's less than you might think, thankfully, but each case is significant. Drop your guesses in the comments and let's see who can get close to the actual number. As we wrap up our adventure, remember, water is wonderful, but respect it. Keep those safety tips in mind and enjoy your swim. Knowledge is always power, especially when it comes to the microscopic world where dangers can be invisible to the naked eye. And that's all for today's deep dive into the world of Naegleria fowleri. If you've enjoyed this microbial escapade, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more adventures in the tiny, incredible world of science. And remember, while the brain-eating amoeba might sound terrifying, with awareness and precaution, you can keep your adventures safe and your brain intact.